Now, in honing our good reason, we're going to have to negotiate some obstacles to getting there. And here are a few of them we're going to mention. Some of them are easier to negotiate, some of them are more difficult. First one is oftentimes ordinary English doesn't provide an adequate vocabulary. Sometimes we're imprecise in our use of words. I'll give you an example. Valid, sound. They mean various things in English. We're going to find in logic, or when talking about argument analysis and logic, that they mean something a little bit more specific. And oftentimes people are confronted with arguments. They say, gee, there's something not right about that, but they can't really explain what the problem is. Another obstacle is that when encountering an argument, somebody or many people do not want to be confrontational. They think there's something wrong with taking a position. They want to be, they desire to be tolerant of other people, of other people's opinions. They want to be open-minded. And we certainly agree. Everybody has their rights to believe whatever they want. In fact, even if it's completely irrational, they have their right to believe that. Nonetheless, you really should consider where reason leads you. That is, you shouldn't say, well, I can't say that this is wrong because somebody else has a different opinion. Everybody has, or I shouldn't say everybody, but many people have different opinions. It's not intolerant for you to have an opinion based on reason. It could very well be that you have a different set of data than somebody else. There can be other explanations, but we just shouldn't decide, well, it's okay, I want to be tolerant, I want to let everybody else agree. I mean, there are cases that you can think about, like, if somebody believes the earth is flat, should we not try to convince them, that there are good reasons for thinking that it isn't flat, because we want to be tolerant or we want to be open-minded? Now, one obstacle that people run into, and we've seen this in the political analysis, is misunderstanding the point of argument analysis. And as some people think that the point of argument analysis is to win. But it doesn't matter what side you're on. If you analyze the argument and you come up with what's likely to be true, by definition, you're a winner. You're believing what's reasonable to believe, what's likely to be true. So arguments are not a verbal form of fist fights or some other kind of confrontation. But the point of argument analysis is to try to find good reasons for what we believe and for good reasons for accepting new things that we have not new beliefs that we haven't considered to this point. And now another obstacle has to do with some misconceptions about truth and rationality. And oftentimes we're going to hear people, and we'll talk about this in the next few sessions, that truth is relative. Truth depends on the person. Truth depends on what the person thinks. We're going to address that because I really think, and I think many people in logic think that that's really a misconception of what truth is. And I think we can accommodate everything that you're saying. In addition to which, same comments are said about rationality. That is, what's rational for one group is not rational for another group, vice versa, that somehow there are these relative conceptions. That is an impediment to good reason. I think we have to set that aside, and we'll be taking that one on directly in the next session or two. And finally, one thing that we should stay away from is what Feldman calls arguments, using argument stoppers, which when you are trying to find something out, maybe you're having a conversation with somebody, trying to figure out what their reasons are for believing it, and they say, well, and you say, well, don't you think this is true? And they say, well, no, that's not true for me, that's true for you. True for me, true for you is sort of an argument stopper. Or everybody's entitled to their opinion. It's an argument stopper. That is, we want to analyze the argument and find out where it leads. It doesn't mean that our goal is to beat somebody into submission. It doesn't mean that if we find out what the truth is that we're going to, and somebody else doesn't believe it, that we're going to cut his fingers off, his or her toes off, or inflict any other kind of bodily harm on them, nor even stigmatize them, but rather we're going to pursue the reasonable course, and that will help us in analyzing and evaluating arguments.